They called it the fork-tailed devil, but when Japanese pilots first saw the P-38 Lightning in the Pacific, they laughed at its odd twin booms, convinced it would never survive a duel with their nimble Zeros. Then everything changed. In late 1942, America faced a crisis. Enemy fighters ruled the skies, and no U.S. plane could escort bombers beyond a 250-mile radius. Suddenly, the P-38 arrived, capable of 400 miles per hour and striking 1,000 miles from base, loaded with a devastating nose battery. What began as mockery would end as dread, as the Lightning's very shape rewrote the rules of air combat. How did a ridiculed design become the nightmare that ruined Japan's skies? Japanese pilots scanning the skies over the Solomons in late 1942 saw something that didn't fit. The new American fighter, with its twin booms and outsized frame, looked more like a mistake than a menace. In squadron tents and mess halls, laughter came easy. Some called it heavy, others called it clumsy. Intelligence memos dismissed it as a curiosity, not a contender. But behind the jokes, a silent calculation was taking place. The Zero, pride of the Imperial Navy, could reach just 250 miles from base before fuel and time forced a return. Most American bombers flying to targets like Rabaul or Bougainville traveled well beyond that, deep into territory no Japanese fighter could follow. For every mile past that invisible line, B-17s and B-24s became easy prey. Loss rates soared. In some raids, a quarter of bombers never came home. American planners faced a simple, brutal math problem. No fighter, no escort, no hope. The Pacific was an ocean of distance, and every mile unguarded meant more empty chairs at breakfast. The P-38 Lightning, with its 1,000-mile reach, was the first to redraw the map. Suddenly, the odd silhouette wasn't just a punchline. It was the answer to a crisis that threatened the entire Allied air campaign. The range gap wasn't a technicality, it was life or death, measured in gallons and minutes. Japanese pilots, once so sure of their dominance, now faced an enemy that could appear where they thought themselves untouchable. Lockheed's engineers, led by Hall Hibbard and Kelly Johnson, faced a question no one else in the Pacific dared ask. How do you build a fighter that can cross an ocean, fight, and come home? Their answer was the P-38 Lightning, a machine that broke every rule of fighter design at the time. The twin-boom layout wasn't just for looks. By splitting the engines into separate nacelles, they cleared the nose for something unprecedented. A 5-gun battery, one 20mm cannon, 4.50 caliber machine guns, all firing straight ahead. This meant no guessing at convergence, no wasted fire. A Lightning pilot could unleash a solid wall of lead at a distant target and know every round would land where the gun sights pointed. Under each boom sat an Allison V1710 engine, each fitted with a turbo-supercharger. These turbos kept the engines breathing at altitude, letting the P-38 scream past 400 miles per hour and climb higher than most Japanese interceptors could even reach. With drop tanks slung under the wings, the Lightning's range stretched past 1,000 miles, enough to escort bombers to Rabaul or Bougainville and still have fuel to fight. The tricycle landing gear made takeoffs and landings safer, especially on rough island strips, while counter-rotating propellers kept the aircraft stable even if one engine failed. Every element was tuned for survival and reach. Armor plating and self-sealing fuel tanks gave pilots a fighting chance to make it home, even after taking hits. What looked odd on the ground became a predator in the sky, fast, hard-hitting, and built to hunt over distances that left rivals behind. Building a fighter for the Pacific meant solving problems no engineer had faced before. The P-38's twin engines, running flat out in tropical heat, were prone to overheating. Mechanics scrambled to keep them cool with field modifications, extra baffles, makeshift insulation, revised coolant flows, but the Allison engines still strained under the relentless pressure of island warfare. Pilots reported cockpit frostbite at altitude, then landed to find oil temperatures spiking on the runway. Every mission risked a forced landing or worse. But the most dangerous flaw hid in the Lightning's speed. In a steep dive, the P-38 could break 500 miles per hour, faster than any American fighter before it. At those speeds, a mysterious force took over. The controls froze, the nose locked downward, and some pilots never pulled out. Compressibility, a phenomenon scientists were only beginning to understand, killed dozens of test and combat pilots. The sky was no longer just a battlefield, it became a laboratory, with every flight a new experiment. Kelly Johnson and his Lockheed engineers refused to accept these losses. Working with NACA's wind tunnel teams, they traced the cause to shockwaves forming over the wings and tail. The solution was as radical as the plane itself: dive recovery flaps. Installed on the outboard wings, these small surfaces changed the way air flowed at high speed, restoring elevator control and letting pilots pull out of dives that once meant certain death. By late 1943, new P-38s rolled off the line with the flaps standard, and retrofit kits began reaching the front. The Lightning was finally ready for the kind of combat that would define its legend. January 7, 1943. 9 P-38 Lightnings climb above the clouds near Buna, engines roaring at 25,000 feet. Below, a formation of Japanese fighters circles, unaware that the game has changed. Instead of waiting for the enemy to attack, Lightning pilots dive, fast, steep, and silent, using gravity and turbocharged power to strike first. There's no turning duel, no swirling dogfight. The P-38s slash through the formation, guns blazing in a single unbroken burst from the nose. In seconds, the sky is littered with burning wreckage and stunned survivors. Japanese after-action reports describe the shock. Twin-tailed enemy, attacks from above, hard to evade. Richard Bong, a young pilot from Wisconsin, learns to master the vertical. He dives, fires, and climbs away before the Zeros can react. Thomas Maguire, his future rival for top ace, studies the same geometry. Attack from altitude, refuse the turn, strike and vanish. Their tactics, boom and zoom, become the Lightning's signature. Speed and altitude mean choice: when to fight, when to escape, when to strike again. Squadron logs from Guadalcanal to New Guinea begin to tell the same story. P-38s escort bombers far beyond the Zero's reach, break up enemy attacks, and return home on one engine if they have to. Japanese pilots, once so sure of their skills, now scan the sky above, wary of the fork-tailed shape that can appear, attack, and disappear before they can even turn. The Lightning is no longer an oddity. In the hands of Bong, Maguire, and their peers, it's rewriting the rules of air combat in the Pacific. April 18, 1943. 18 P-38 Lightnings lift off from Guadalcanal, each cradling drop tanks under its wings, engines throttled back to save every ounce of fuel. Their mission: intercept Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of Pearl Harbor, whose itinerary had been cracked by American codebreakers. The flight plan reads like a dare: over 600 miles out, skimming the ocean at 50 feet to avoid radar, then a precise climb for the ambush. Every pilot knows there is no margin for error. One wrong heading and they will miss their target or run dry over enemy jungle. At the appointed second, the P-38s rise from the haze. Yamamoto's bombers appear on schedule. 4 Lightnings slash through the formation, guns hammering. In less than a minute, both Japanese bombers spiral down in flames. Only one P-38 is lost. The message is clear: nowhere is safe, not even 600 miles from Allied bases. By spring 1944, Japanese pilots no longer joked about the Lightning. Squadron diaries from Rabaul and New Guinea reveal a growing reluctance to engage when P-38s appeared. Veteran instructors quietly warned new arrivals: avoid head-on passes, break contact if the fork-tailed fighters dive from above. Loss reports from the 31st Sentai list the Lightning as responsible for a third of all shootdowns that season. Instructors at Kasumigaura Air School rewrote training modules, urging pilots to use clouds for cover and keep altitude low unless forced to climb. Field memos discouraged frontal attacks, citing the deadly accuracy of the American nose guns. Pilots began scanning the sky with a sense of foreboding, often breaking off intercepts before a shot was fired. Post-war interviews echo the same admission. When a P-38 entered the fight, many simply turned away, unwilling to face the sudden violence of its attack. In 1943, P-38 Lightnings flew over 600 miles to intercept Admiral Yamamoto, a feat impossible for earlier Allied fighters and a turning point in the Pacific Air War. Japanese pilots, who once dismissed the Lightning as clumsy, recorded in field reports its devastating high-speed attacks and precise nose-mounted firepower. Wartime documents confirm that by spring 1944, Japanese mission abort rates increased as the P-38's presence eroded enemy confidence. What is clear is the P-38's combination of speed, range, and tactics forced a shift in air combat doctrine, outlasting the Zero and influencing post-war designs worldwide.